What if I don't know who my ancestors are? What if I can't set up an altar to my ancestors? What if I don't even know what my ancestors like? And how can I figure out my relationship to my ancestors by looking at my own astrology chart? Friendo, those are really good questions, and I want to celebrate Hoodoo Heritage Month by talking about them. So let's get into it. Hey y'all, it is your friendo, the lady Ms. Vagina Jenkins, and I am continuing my celebration of Hoodoo Heritage Month by talking about ancestors, their role in our life, how to connect to them, and how we can use our own personal astrology to understand or deepen our relationship to our ancestors. So first and foremost, I kind of just want to acknowledge that I think that this is my new filming location. Previously, I didn't want to film here in my living room space because it's right next to a very, very busy street. But I'm loving this natural light. I love the plants at my back. I love being able to sit in my spinny chair and stim a little bit as I talk to you all. So I think that this is the new spot. Let me know if you've noticed the difference and if you appreciate the difference. So yeah, getting back to the business at hand, it is Hoodoo Heritage Month, and I am a Hoodoo-centered astrologer. This month, I have made videos about cleansing practices, about protection practices, and I definitely wanted to make a video talking about our relationship to our ancestors. And so, yeah, I want to make this video part FAQ, frequently asked questions about how we relate to our ancestors, and get into some astrology about how we connect to and deepen our relationship with our ancestors. I want to acknowledge that the frequently asked questions part of this video was inspired by an account that I started following here on YouTube called the Wolfsbane Witch. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But I saw a video on their channel and they were talking about how as a white, queer, and trans person, that it felt difficult to connect to their ancestors because they couldn't see directly in their lineage that there were any anti-racist folk and queer and trans folks. And that video really inspired me and got me to thinking about all of the ways in which people feel some sort of blockage or disconnect from their ancestors and the common reasons that folks have named about that. And I just want to offer up my take on these things. I'm not saying that I'm an expert, but I'm just saying, you know, these are some of my thoughts. So first and foremost, one of the common things that I see people ask is, oh, I want to connect to my ancestors, but I don't know how to start to make an altar to them, or I'm not allowed to have an altar in my home that I share with other people. And my gentle pushback to that is, first and foremost, you are the altar. Your existence, everything that you do, the choices you make, the way that you live your life is directly tied to the work that your ancestors did while they were here, and that you are continuing that work, whether you recognize it or not. And so, yeah, if you can't build or choose not to build a physical altar, that would be perfectly okay, because the way that you live your life is the altar. You are the altar, which I know sounds like heady and maybe something that it might take some time to like wrap your brain around, but I hope that you embrace that as fact and understand that you never have to make an altar, light a candle, do anything for your ancestors if you are willing to understand that you are an embodiment of the connection between you and them. And if you do want to make an altar and want to do it more surreptitiously, I just would like to offer up that the way that my ancestors had to practice their spirituality was often surreptitiously, and it was often rooted in how do we make do with what we have at our disposal right now. As a person who also understands the world through the lens of astrology, I also think of altar building as somehow being able to incorporate the 4 elements as you are building an altar. And this aligns with my hoodoo-centered spirituality, because I think that the simplest altars are just a candle and a glass of water that combines fire and water. You and your existence are about being on this earthly plane, and anything that you speak in veneration of, or in prayer to, or just in conversational connection to your ancestors is rooted in the air sign energy. So yeah, just having a candle, a glass of water, you being there and talking to them is a perfect experience of having an altar. And yeah, no one need recognize that this candle and glass of water are anything other than what they look like to the uninitiated eye: a candle and a glass of water. Coming off of the altar question, I think that also people will ask, oh my gosh, what kind of offerings should I leave for my ancestors? How do I know what they like? Well, the first thing that I would say is, first of all, you don't necessarily have to leave a physical offering in a place for your ancestors, because reminder, if you are the altar, then your offerings can be your actions that are in alignment with the work that your ancestors were doing. And then that leads me to my second point about this, which is, how do you know what your ancestors like? Well, what is the shit that you like? Like I said, I think that we are here to continue the work of our ancestors, and so much of continuing that work is that you are chosen because of your alignment to these particular ancestors, and vice versa. You chose these ancestors to have your back on this physical plane because of your alignment. So if you happen to have a strange taste for black olives and mayonnaise, maybe that is something that your ancestors would love in offering, and just you eating it, savoring it, and inviting your ancestors to savor it through the experience of your physical body is a perfect offering.
Wow, it's a little early for ice cream.
It's never too early for ice cream, Jem. But we didn't have any ice cream, so this is mayonnaise and black olives.
Oh!
Related to the point about, what it is that you resonate with and like and find yourself in alignment with, maybe a continuation of your ancestors' desires, work, the ways that y'all are in alignment with each other. I feel like I've heard a number of white people talk about, oh, I don't do ancestor work because all of my ancestors were colonizers, rapists, murderers, that kind of thing. And I hear that. Colonizer realness is absolutely, a reality of white supremacy culture, colonization, patriarchy, all of those systems, right? But at the same time, if you find yourself in this lifetime working towards anti-racism, working towards decolonizing and re-indigenizing the world, it makes me wonder if there are ancestors in your lineage that had those same ideas that you are actually in alignment with without recognizing it, and the ways in which you might be lumping those ancestors in with the larger picture of your ancestors. Or what if in the afterlife they sort of recognize the error of their ways? Now that they have stepped into sort of universal consciousness and understand the ways in which we are all connected, do they regret their actions on the earthly plane? And are they trying to live out and rectify those actions through you and your physical experience? And what does it mean to connect with those folks that you can help them do that type of work? I will offer up one caveat though, and that is that for folks with colonizer ancestors, particularly if those ancestors are more close to you in your lineage, your parents, your grandparents, that kind of thing. Beware of, oh, I feel drawn to this spiritual practice that's outside the experience of my cultural background. Because I wonder how much of that feeling drawn to a thing is that colonizer energy coming up. The energy of feeling like everything belongs to me. I should get to access everything, you know? So sit with yourself, especially as it relates to closed practices. Sit with yourself and really question, do you feel drawn to this? Or is it that colonizer spirit coming out saying, oh, all things belong to me? And then that question that the Wolfsbane Witch was asking in their video, which I'll go ahead and link that in the caption below so you can check it out. You know, what if I don't see myself reflected in my ancestors? I think about this specifically as it relates to white folks that are anti-racist, that have colonizer ancestors, but also like queer and trans folks that don't see queer and trans folks being named in their lineage. I feel like this is directly tied to my experience of being a hoodoo, specifically because of Blackness and the way that that operates here in America. We often don't know our ancestors because our ancestors were hidden from us because of the ways in which chattel slavery worked here in the Americas. We were torn from our families, disconnected from our lineages, and yeah, sometimes you don't get to know specifically your ancestors, who they were, their names, the things that they liked. And I would offer up that those are superficial ways to know someone because you also know their heart and you also know their spirit. And so once again, if you find yourself in this lifetime queering things, living in queer and trans spectrum kinds of ways, I promise you that you are not original and having this original experience. This is an experience that has been echoed, mirrored throughout your lineage in some kind of way. And so I invite you to proceed as so many Black folks, and Black folks specifically in hoodoo have done, which is to call on our ancestors, both known and unknown. This also reminds me of one of the most amazing readings I have ever received. I got a reading from Kirbo of It's Queer Magic, and I'll tag them below. They have a channel here on YouTube. They do a queer ancestor reading in which they are able to use their intuitive sort of gifts to bring to your attention some queer and trans ancestors that you may not have known that you had. And yeah, it's definitely one of the most affirming experiences that I have ever experienced from any kind of intuitive or spiritual reader. And I highly, highly, highly recommend. So I'll make sure to put that information linking you to them in the caption below as well. Those are some frequently asked questions about relating to ancestors that I see come up over and over again in like the comment sections of videos that I watch. And I just wanted to offer up my take on those things. I also wanted to offer up my take on the astrology of it all. Any chart that we run, though, each one of the 12 houses in this circular chart wheel reflects a particular area of life. And I personally think of the 4th house as speaking to our ancestry and our lineage. It can also speak to like the family of origin that we come from, like right now in this lifetime, or the family that we end up creating for ourselves, whether that's chosen or birth experiences of family. But I also very much think that it talks about our relation to our ancestors, the gifts that they gave us, the gifts that were passed down to us, both in terms of what sign rules the 4th house and in terms of the planetary helpers that you have in the 4th house. Yeah, just for the rest of this video, I want to talk about the planets that you might find in the fourth house, and what that could mean about your connection to your ancestors. So when I think about the sign that's on the fourth house, I think about sort of the approach that one could use as you're trying to connect to your ancestors, like how you might go around about connecting to your ancestors. For me, I'm a person with Pisces on the fourth house, and I'm very much and spiritually and intuitively connected to my ancestors. Another example could be Taurus on the fourth house, and the ways that your ancestors might show up for you by providing physical comfort and experiences of like physical ease. The feeling that comes to mind because of Pisces and thinking about things in terms of feelings, I think about Taurus on the fourth house as the feeling of a warm blanket, but also, yeah, ancestors that very much are like, oh, you need to have a nice bed, you need to improve your mattress, and then someone knocks on your door and they're like, hey, we got a mattress for delivery for this address. Like that kind of experience. It's a very much a tangible experience of your ancestors. Or another experience could be the experience of Sagittarius on the fourth house. Experiencing ancestors through a broadening of one's world view, or maybe even experiencing ancestors in the sense of them somehow aiding your travel to the part of the world in which they come from. Maybe, I'm trying to think of an air sign. Oh, an Aquarius experience of the fourth house, and what it means to understand that connecting to your ancestors means stepping away from the world quite a bit. Having a designated time, space to be able to communicate with them. Yeah, those are some of the like signs on the fourth house and how you might go about relating to your ancestors, or what that experience might feel like in terms of like the texture. But I also want to get into particular planets that you might find in the fourth house to get into a little bit more about the lessons that you may learn through your relationship to your ancestors. And I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but feel free to ask me any questions in the comments below. I love talking about this stuff. I just don't want this video to be super lengthy. So one thing that I want to mention, talking about the sun as a planetary teacher and the moon as a planetary teacher, some astrologers that really rely on gender binaries, I think, a bit too much. We'll talk about the sun being about the father, or in this case, the father's line, and the moon being about the mother, or in this case, the mother's line. And so I just wanted to, it's not something I necessarily ascribe to because of, the gender binariness of it all, but I do want to offer that up to you in case it's something that resonates. Just looking at the sun on its own, I very much think about the sun in the fourth house as the experience of ancestors that are here to help you grow into and honor your sense of self, to aspire to be something greater, to do something greater. They're here to help you with your aspirations and growing into and expressing your real, true, authentic self. Next up, the moon in the fourth house. When I think about the moon in the fourth house and what your ancestors are here to support you with, I very much think about the experience of understanding that connecting to your intuition is a lot of what they want you to learn. Connecting to your intuitive self, sensing the sort of world beyond the veil, because the moon can be related to the body, like what it is to sense and feel the world with one's intuitive body and feel it reflected in your physical body, and what it means to develop those skills with the age with the aid of your ancestors. When I think about Mercury as it relates to the fourth house and your ancestors, I very much think about how it must be to connect with the ideas that they had, or continue the work or research or writing or conversations that they were having in their lifetime around the ideas that felt important for them. And being able to explain to other people the ideas that felt really important to them in their lifetime. And then how can you disseminate and explain that information to the people? I am very proud to be a person who has both their Mercury and their Sun in the fourth house in Pisces. And so I very much feel like this is the work that I am meant to do. I am meant to convey a lot about how they understood the world, their values, their ideas about how the world works. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that tidbit. When I think about having Mars in the fourth house, I think about continuing their fight. What is it that they were passionate about and felt driven about? What was it that they were experiencing righteous rage about? What oppressions do they experience in their lifetime that they want you to fight against? How does your existence now, here in this lifetime on the physical plane, help them to express their righteous rage? And the gift that they may be giving you in terms of the energy or life force to be able to fight that good fight. When I think about Venus in the fourth house, I think about, well, a couple of different ideas. First and foremost, what were your ancestors' values, and how is it that your lifetime is rooted in those values? And then how are you preserving their art, their cultural artifacts for generations to come? And then the other idea is that Venus is one of the benefic planets alongside Jupiter. And so when I think about having a benefic planet sitting in the fourth house, I think about how you become fortunate in this lifetime by sitting in your fourth house energy, whatever that sign is, when you are embodying that, how you are able to create fortune, or in the case specifically of Venus, how you're able to attract, to manifest good fortune, goodwill, material resources that support you, that kind of thing in your life when you sit in whatever sign rules your fourth house. So, for example, fourth house in Pisces, what are you doing around art and spirituality? And how are you embodying that and understanding that we are all connected? And how are you experiencing that? And then how does that support what you would like to manifest in terms of attracting things to you that help support your work? And then the other benefic planet is Jupiter. And so when I think about the good fortune and the blessings that sort of a Jupiter placement confers upon us, I think about taking action in the sign that you have on your fourth house. Again, that example of Sagittarius, fourth house, what would it be like to really sink into that Sagittarius energy and keep an open mind, talk to people from different cultures, actually go to different places and travel around the world and connect to people with ideas that are foreign or different from the ways in which you were raised? And then how does that confer like blessings upon you? Am I using the word confer right? I hope so. And then the other thing that I would say about Jupiter, like as a planetary teacher, um, when I think about Jupiter in the fourth house, I very much think about the experience of your ancestors wanting to share ideas with you. It's kind of that same energy like with the Mercury, but even more expansive. What ideas did they have in their lifetime that they want you to continue exploring and opening yourself and opening your mind to? What deeply held beliefs and philosophies about the ways the world works do they want you to continue to explore, to savor, and to preserve for the generations to come? Hey y'all, I am coming to you from the editing couch where I realized that I have forgotten to talk about Saturn in the fourth house, and I apologize for that. Um, this is a perfect way to talk about the deal with Saturn in the fourth house. I think a lot of times the experience of Saturn in the fourth house is the first phrase that comes to mind is the parentified child. This person who, from a very early age, has had to hold so much weight. And so sometimes that weight bearing can give you the feeling that you're not allowed to make mistakes. And as you can see here in this moment, we are very much allowed to make mistakes, and there is no mistake that you can't come back from. And sometimes these mistakes give you an opportunity to do something even more fabulous. And so in this moment, I'm going to take advantage of this mistake and go actually a little bit more deeper, give you a little extra love. So yeah, definitely parentified child kind of feelings, holding a lot of weight, potentially making you experience a fear of making mistakes, or maybe a fear that you are not going to be successful in some kind of way. But I think the idea of connecting to your ancestors, and that Saturn might be a planetary teacher about that, is to believe and have faith in the idea that not only will you be successful, but also that your ancestors are making you an authority, that they have given you this weight, this sense of responsibility, because they know that you can carry it. And in terms of responsibility, some sort of sense of responsibility, maybe to your family or to building family or creating family, um, and how in this context, because you have held so much, you have the superpower to be able to hold this weight, and not only that you can hold this weight, but that you are safe now, and that your ancestors are here to keep you safe. They are very much, the experience of Saturn is boundaries. And so they are giving you these clear boundaries that keep you safe, that allow you to be successful if you do, in fact, believe in yourself as the authority of your life. So, yeah, that is Saturn in the fourth house, and what it might be like to connect to your ancestors if Saturn is a planetary teacher or guide for what they would like you to continue to do in terms of work and responsibility in your life. And then when I think about Uranus in the fourth house, I very much think about the experience of ancestors that want you to continue their rebellion. The ways that those ancestors, the ways in which those ancestors may have found themselves on the margins in their lifetime, or may have saw the existing power structures and wanted to disrupt them, rebel against them. That's the kind of work that they want you to continue to do. And or what if this is the experience of ancestors that felt so distanced from people because of their uniqueness, because of their weirdness, and they want you to not only understand that that is a legitimate way of being, but they also want you to embrace that quality within yourself. Yeah, this is the kind of experience that I think about when I think about Uranus in the fourth house, and specifically just understanding that part of what your ancestors would like you to do in terms of continuing their work is to disrupt, to be a disruptor without critiquing them, evaluating them, and seeing if they are actually working for all of the people or just a chosen few at the top of the hierarchy. That's really important and valuable work. When I think about Neptune in the fourth house as a planetary teacher or a lesson that your ancestors and spirit guides might want you to understand, very much the work of spirituality, or maybe even their arts and cultural practices that they want you to revisit, to hold on to preserve, and those arts and cultural practices that felt deeply spiritual to them. And by that I mean like the kinds of like arts and cultural practices that they engaged in that felt like this honors God, like that level of art, spirituality, connection, and understanding that we are all kind of a part of the same one energy, spirit. That's the kind of work that your ancestors may want you to continue or engage in with that Neptune placement in the fourth house. And then we come to Pluto in the fourth house, which can be a challenging placement. But when I think about the lesson or the task that ancestors may have for you with a Pluto in the fourth house, what does it mean to understand the shadow sides of the family that you come from, to understand and see the dark secrets that family is hiding, and to be the one that heals those things by looking at them, excavating them, talking about them, and transforming them at a really deep level. What is it like to be the person who is tasked with that level of healing, of shadow work, of transforming and healing the family? And sometimes, can I just say that, like, doing that work can often make you the black sheep of the family, and also healing yourself can be enough. I also want to address the nodes in the fourth house and Chiron. So those aren't necessarily planetary placements, but I do want to talk about them. So when I see a north node in the fourth house, I think about this person who is going to be growing into a relationship with their ancestors over the course of their lifetime. It may not necessarily be something that comes, easily or innately in terms of connecting with your lineage, your ancestors, your spirit guides, that kind of thing. But it is something that to aspire to, something to push your growth edges on, and to understand that that is something that might unfold slowly over time for you. That it is absolutely important work to continue to try, even though maybe in your younger years it's not necessarily something that you may resonate with. But it is something that will be a big deal, and it will continue to grow over the course of your lifetime. And then when I think about a south node sitting in the fourth house, I think about ancestors as, say, that's kind of similar to that blanket feel that I talked about before. I think I was talking about having the sign of Taurus on the fourth house, but ancestors as comfort, understanding that your relationship to your ancestors is actually, it may be something that is a little bit more easy to grasp, depending on if there are any other planetary teachers in there in the fourth house as well. But it may be something that feels more easy to grasp, and actually something that feels more like foundational, something that feels like a comfort zone, like this is just a part of who you are. And so this maybe could be the experience of understanding from a very young age that you are not just yourself, but that you are yourself and the people who have come here with you and who resonate with the work that you are meant to do in this lifetime. And finally, when I think about Chiron in the fourth house, I think that it has some of the feeling of that Pluto placement in the fourth house, and that it's so much about healing family, healing the family of origin that you come from, healing yourself through the experience of building your own family or chosen family. Chiron in the fourth house may not be as much about like the secrets that your family holds that you are having to heal from, but it can also be, but it could be more about this feeling of feeling harmed by your family or your lineage, and then how you have to sort of heal yourself over the course of your lifetime from that harm. And specifically with Chiron in the fourth house, not only healing, but talking about that experience and sharing that experience to help other people in similar circumstances heal themselves, their family, and their relationship. So yes, it's that same healing work. I think it's more personal than it is about the family lineage and family secrets like with Pluto. And I think it also has the part where you need to talk about it and talk about the experience, because part of that task is to share the experience with others to help them heal as well. That is the planets, the North and South Node, and the asteroid Chiron in the fourth house. And that's where I would put most of like the experience of like ancestry in a chart. I think there's also can be a touch about where is your moon placed in your chart, or what your 12th house is looking like. But mainly I would focus on the fourth house. I'm curious what other people think about that too, in terms of other placements or other houses that they would look at to find out like relationship with ancestors and ancestral tasks that have been assigned to us. So yeah, let me know your thinking on this. Comment below, because I absolutely love being in conversation with you. It's part of my fourth house Sun Mercury work. Speaking of my work, if you want to support my work, one of the best ways that you can do it is by becoming a member of this channel. Membership in this channel starts at $3.99 a month, and you get really cool perks like custom emojis and loyalty badges. Yeah, there are a lot of really cool perks. And the main perk is that you get to support a Black queer autistic person survive capitalism. So if that's something that interests you, please check out joining and becoming a member with the join button below. Or if you just want to offer up a tip just for this one time on this one video, use that thanks button. Either way, just supporting by watching the video, commenting, liking, sharing with your friends is absolutely invaluable as well. Yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for supporting this channel and my life and livelihood. And thank you, as always, for making time for queer astrology. Bye, y'all. Mwah.